Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Joy, would you please call the roll?
Hamilton.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ledger Kalin.
Yes.
Hamas.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, before we begin the meeting, we have representatives from our Blue Zones Committee here tonight, and they would like to present to the city officially our designation as a Blue Zone work site. So, Julie, if others could come to the podium here and get the whole committee up there. Talk a little bit about the work site designation, what went into it, and then we want to thank all of the department heads and everyone who cooperated with this, and have them come up and receive the award.
The understanding is that there were 6 departments that were involved eventually, and that is quite amazing because when most businesses, because the Blue Zone certification that we're talking about tonight is not the Blue Zone certification for the full city. This is for the city of Fairfield as a work site. We needed to get 10 work sites through the process, and we are now at 11 work sites through the process. And this is very important because there is each component in the program, for instance, schools, businesses, restaurants, grocery stores, all of the components of the city of Fairfield are involved, but work sites are might be one of the key situations. So the city of Fairfield is now certified as a Blue Zone work site. So that's the nature of it. And there were 6 departments, and we got 1 department head. There's department head. Yeah.
Sean, it's Derek and Christy. Is Christy here?
Right.
Okay, good.
So, and wonderful
So-
that we are able to get through it, because it's complicated when you have multiple departments. If you have one business, then you can kind of more easily pull it together. I have an experience, we did the university as a work site in the same way, and that became very complex because of the number of components and all. So I understand for the city how it would be quite difficult. So congratulations to them all the departments, and maybe if we could give a certificate. Is there some way that we can?
Actually, Christy, if you'd receive it on behalf of, because I know you put a lot of the organization into this, and if you would receive it on the city's behalf.
There we go. There we go.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
You're gonna be able to get. You'll share it with us.
Okay.
All right.
Good. So that's it.
Thank you very much. I would add to what Ken said is that I think the importance of the worksite designation is that you are really reaching into the daily lives of people, and with the 11 work sites that we have certified right now, do you have an idea, Ken, how many people that reaches?
My guess is it's a little bit over with 750 people, 800 people
Okay.
in the work sites. That'd be at least in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Because we have Cambridge and the university, and those are 4. That's 700 there.
That's
alone.
700 there. Yeah, no, it's probably closer to 1,000, I would guess. Yeah, great. All right, thank you very much, and we'll move on to our agenda. Before we begin our consent agenda, are there any additions to this evening's agenda? If not, we'll move to our consent agenda. We have approval of the minutes for the November 10th and special council meeting on the 13th. We'll approval of employee appreciation celebration December 19th. This is something that we do annually. And Joy, is there a figure that we're going to approve? We generally do something up to $1,500
Yeah, I think it's
approved.
$1,500.
Okay. So we'll use that figure. I'm sure we're generally, I think, under that, but we have the 2014 annual TIF report. We have a resolution approving employment for Park and Rec, approval of a liquor license for Flamingo Lanes, and claims in the amount of $340,030.89. Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda items? Now entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Ledger Kalin. Please call the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Ledger Kalin.
Yes.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hamas.
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. The council, moving to our public appearances, I know great progress has been made by the Housing Task Force. We're going to get 2 reports on that tonight. The first will come from Adam Pleggy, and I'll ask Adam to address us now.
So good evening. I won't monopolize much of your time tonight. Like Ed said, there's already 2 things on the agenda. We're just talking about the actionable items of the Housing Task Force. We've completed the surveying for the CDBG Housing Sustainability Grant. So we've got our 80% target response rate. We have
Explain that to the council again.
So we've
Adam.
designated a target area up in the northwest part of town. It runs from 12th and Gear east to 10th and Gear, and then south 3 blocks, basically to the railroad tracks. And we got 80% response rate from households in that area, and we have 23 qualified pre-applications for people interested in pursuing grant money to do home repairs. So we're very satisfied with that, and Matt will talk about that a little bit more. We also have 3 local banks stepping up to make a local match: First National Bank, Fairfield, Libertyville Savings Bank, and Iowa State Bank, as well as Rotary, all contributing $1,000 pledged if we're successful in our grant application. So Jessica's all be talking about the second draft for the housing TIF policy as well, I think, later this evening.
Yes. Okay, great, thanks. Any questions for Adam on that? I know we'll be talking about the grant specifically in a little bit, but go ahead, John.
This is specifically about the grant, so I'll wait. Yeah. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Next, we had a request by Beth Williams. I don't see Beth here yet to address council. If she's a little late, we'll try and get her in a little bit later. We'll move on to our resolutions and action items. The first, we have an application for tax abatement at 704 West Fillmore Avenue for Carol Hartman. I think you'll see, council, that there was one new portion that was included, and there was also roof replacement. So entertain a motion to approve the abatement.
Move to approve.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Hammes.
I do have one question. Is that a combined total of the 2 numbers on there, or is
I
that
thought
a-
it was the 10,126.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I was wondering, so.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? Okay. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next, council, we have a request to authorize driveway access easement. And this is land that the city now owns that was dedicated to the city by the Natty family. John, are you going to speak to this?
Yeah,
Great,
there's
thank you.
something you should know. Yeah, this that you have talks about the easement being granted and for $1 and other good and valuable consideration, and then we have in parentheses, per separate summary of consideration, which we agreed with the grantee we wouldn't be recording. And I want to just walk through that a second with you, because this is going to be over a period that's fairly long-term, something that will involve a partnering between the city, the Park and Rec Foundation, and the Park and Rec Department, as well as the readers. And the additional consideration, the city's going to agree, this is actually an easement that's going back to...
John, can you describe start with the purpose of it? Why are we entering into
we
it?
need access through a driveway to get back to a part of the Natty gift.
Okay,
And we're also going to have a parking lot back there. So one of the things we're agreeing to do is build the parking lot. That is an area where the readers have agreed it can be built. We're going to snow fence it as necessary each year, and that'll be the city doing that, not the readers. But the readers will help direct that. There will be a second coat of seal coating put down on the lane that goes back down. This is about the size of an alley. It's 16 feet wide, and essentially that will happen next summer. Then we're going to, after that, agree to sand and plow the road on a regular basis. It's basically going to be for the benefit of the users of the Natty Gift and the parking lot. We'll use a total patch machine starting in April and May of 2015 as needed, and additional seal coat layers will be added over the years.
And this is for
Consistent
the
with
whole run from B Street to the driveway?
Essentially as needed along that, yes, Your Honor.
Have you seen the map, Darrell?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It only goes to the east side
Okay.
of the Reader property, correct?
Yes, but we're going to have the readers initial a piece that I consider necessary on an extension of B Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I understand this, and talking with Derek, and also what the reader's expectation is this will be occasional patching probably. This is the equivalent of I guess, a little better quality than a pea gravel seal-coated lane.
Mhm.
And they're going to try to maintain it that way to get to the parking lot and the Navy gift lane.
Now, is the parking lot going to be on the west side of their property, and then we're continuing that easement to their east property line, or?
I wanted to say
South
it's going
side.
to be on the east side or the south side.
So on this little map that we have, John, is that the little box on the west side of
That's
the
not-
Natty
no,
property? Is
that's-
that the proposed
no.
parking lot?
No, that's owned by someone
See,
else.
this
That's
is
outside of the
someone
Natty
else's
property.
Oh, I
easement
see.
here. This is the Reader property, right?
My understanding was it was going to be immediately east.
It'll be just where the driveway is.
For the next property owner?
Right.
Or do the Readers own that as well?
I think they may own that as well. But
So it's going to be on the north of the side of the street?
Well,
It'd have to be on the north side of the street, because that's the direction that the
Driveway's
the
going.
gift was,
gift land
is north
that.
of there, yeah.
No, the gift land is this.
Um,
I don't think there's anything south of this, Mel, do you have a?
Well, the Natty property is south of
The Natty property
Yeah,
is
the
south.
gift, the gift land is all south.
All right,
It's
so
just that
So
we're
where is
talking-
the parking lot?
I'm turned
Jim?
upside down on this. It should
This would be north.
It should be south of that, somewhere in that area. where
Yeah,
they
I think it's that corner. I think it's that southeast
Yeah.
corner.
So,
It's in the south?
Well,
but it's going to be in an
On our
area
map,
that
it's
the
northeast.
readers designate, basically so that it's not necessarily something they look out at. The way I understand
Well,
it from Derek.
So it's going to be further south into the property, into the Natty
It'll
property?
still be next to the driveway, but it won't necessarily be within their vision, is the way I understand it.
Okay, do the other property owners that I was talking about here that are to the east, do they have any consent or control over that
No.
particular driveway easement now,
This-
since
this
they
is-
use it?
This is an access easement that the readers own the real estate, what they call the primary estate is in them.
Okay.
Anybody else that's accessing.
Has an
goes through
easement from the readers
Yeah,
as well?
so,
Okay.
Now, other than that, in the future, cost of seal goat, as necessary, is going to be presented to the Park and Rec Foundation first, and if they're able to handle it, it will be taken care of. They want to be able to turn to the city if they need help with it, but right now, the Park and Rec Foundation seems to be able to do that if asked. So the Park and Rec Foundation has so far indicated that they think this is a good workable arrangement. I'm on the Park and Rec Foundation board because I'm speaking there in 2 hats. That should work for the immediate long term. There will be some speed bumps applied by the city. There will be some signage applied by the city. This will be a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit area on the lane. And we will provide some snow fence not to exceed $400 in cost. And thereafter, the owner will be responsible for any more fencing if that's necessary. Those are all additional considerations that they don't fit neatly into the easement form that we use for this purpose, but that is the additional consideration beside the $1. So we're not paying them anything for this, but we are making it workable so that it's convenient for everybody. Park and Rec Foundation is on board with this and thinks it will make things simpler as far as the use of the parking lot for years to come. So
Okay.
that's what we're doing.
My final question on it is, once the easement's executed, is that for this winter maintenance as well? Because it doesn't really appear that we have a real good location to turn
I don't
any
think there's
equipment
anything
around
to access
until we
there.
get that parking lot built.
Anyway,
I think it's not anticipated that we're going to be in there working until next summer.
Okay.
Am I fair in saying that, Mel?
I'm looking at Daryl.
You're looking at
And
Daryl, too?
Daryl and Derek.
The only thing we agreed to is on total patch coming up next spring, if it needs a total patch. With our total patcher, we'll patch it up a little bit, then after the next fiscal year, 15, 16, then it would be sealed.
Then you would add,
We would not be sanding it or plowing it this year.
oh, I thought I heard you say something about that. Maintenance,
By next summer, July 2015, we did indicate, well, that's your patch, though.
yeah, that's the total patch and possible seal coat that he was talking about, but
okay. Well, I think we're just talking about the agreement in principle tonight.
Yeah, we
so
won't be
I
doing any
just-
snow plowing or sanding until after, it says winter of 2015. But there is anticipated that we will be doing some additional seal coating in July.
I was just
2015.
curious as to whether we were going to do any of that this winter, and it appears that we're not going to be, because like I said, there's really no way to get a big piece of equipment turned around to go in and then come back out.
No, I don't think this is in anybody's budget until
Okay.
the planning for next summer.
All right.
John, I have a question.
Yeah.
So somehow, this family, the Readers, that you said is?
Yes.
Readers. Yeah, so somehow that's their lane. But there's many other, going down the street, further to the east, there's several other houses that access through that lane. So do they, how does it work for them now?
The way I understand it, it's a private driveway. It's, the primary estate and ownership is theirs. They're the ones that have to grant the equivalent of long-term easement or right-of-way. And there are other people that already have the advantage of that. So there will be some other people driving down to this. It's our only way to get into that part of the gift land. That's why it's beneficial to have a lot up there in that area. 5 or 6 car parking lots over.
No, I understand, but I'm just curious about, right now, these other people, they don't.
So
pay
the answer
anything
is
for
that
use
the
of
readers,
street?
the readers control all that.
They control it.
So
but
they have agreements with
They
those
have
other
agreements with the other people,
That's my
and they
understanding.
may continue to, or not, get whatever their yearly fees for keeping up that street, but now we're gonna keep it up,
Right.
Well, a portion of
Right.
it, only up to the
up to
east
their house,
property.
right.
Yes.
I see.
Anything
Yeah, it's-
beyond that wouldn't be.
Right. We're not gonna take care of anything beyond that.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the agreement with the Reader family.
So moved.
Moved by Hallie,
Second.
second by Ledger Kalen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next, council, we have a resolution to approve, which essentially is official intent to issue debt and reimburse the city for original expenditures. Melanie, you can comment on how this will be applied.
This is for the easements and the land purchases related with the first step of the sewer project. So the 2 land purchases at the treatment plant and then the 6 easements between the treatment plant and Lamson Woods. This basically allows you to incur the debt even though the bonds will be sold separately. Land is not an eligible SRF expense, so you'll have to issue separate sewer revenue bonds for this, but we figured we would wait until all of the easements and land purchases are in, and we'll talk more about those total costs in your closed session. But we wanted them all in before you issued bonds, which is why we're doing this resolution now. So we could go ahead and pay a few of the ones that have been taken care of.
And those funds would be paid out of where at this point?
Joy Sewer.
Wastewater.
Yeah.
Okay, so a capital fund out of the wastewater. fund.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hamilton, second by Rasmussen. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Hammes.
Yes.
Ledger Kalen.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, council, we are going to be holding a public hearing about citizen participation regarding our proposed activities for the application of the Community Development Block Grant. This is something that's required in the grant process. So at this time, we'll open the public hearing and ask if there is any content, or a comment rather. Seeing no interest in commenting, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll then move to a resolution on the submission of the grant. And I'd ask Matt to join us for a second to talk a little bit about where the grant is and what the process is at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. More or less a formality of the grant, and probably more tied to the hearing itself. I have to introduce essentially what the project is, really share financial details of what's involved, what the goals of the project are, and the process more or less. So I guess I'll just go through that right now. The need for the project was originally identified in the Fairfield Housing Needs Assessment. As I understand it, the city had undertaken a similar housing project more or less a decade ago.
7 or 8 years ago,
Yeah.
probably, yeah. Mhm.
And so this is kind of on the heels of that. That was successfully implemented. I believe it was 6 or 8 homes then for that targeted area. And I believe that was the southwest quadrant of the city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were, but there were closer to 15 homes that were in that one.
Oh, really? Okay,
Mhm.
okay. The state seems to be targeting projects that are in the 6 to 8 home range because they like to see performance on the grant. It's certainly difficult to find enough contractors locally to carry out the work in a timely fashion because the state likes to get their money spent in a timely manner. So we are targeting 8 homes. The project was first identified in the housing needs assessment. Many of the recommendations of that assessment are being carried out by the housing task force. The funding for the project, total cost is estimated to be $340,000. That will include a proposed $316,000 of that being grant. And the city, as I understand it, the city has already authorized local match.
Not from our budget. We said a local match would not determine where the amount was going to come from.
Well, I don't know that we took action on that yet. We had some, I think we had some discussion about it. We talked about potentially looking at some ways in kind that the city could provide this, because I think we were advised that there could be an in-kind contribution, yes? No?
I think it was the last meeting we did their resolution for the 20,000, and it wasn't determined where the 20,000 would come from.
Right. Didn't we say that the property owners could give that amount?
I had presented, I think, about a month ago, and at that point, we were hoping that it could be an in-kind contribution by the homeowners. We were advised by IEDA that that was not possible, that it needed to be a financial contribution.
Then we could have a financial contribution by the homeowners?
They will not allow it.
So it has to be by the city.
It has to be by the city, and I was under the understanding that there's a $20,000 match by the city.
But that has to be a cash match from the city side and not an in-kind. So can it be tied? I thought the last time we did this, there was the possibility of tying it to some other work that the city was doing in that area, and that did act as the in-kind portion.
I think if you can show that the work would have otherwise not taken place, they will consider that, but I think there is a preference that you have a cash contribution.
Okay. Matt,
So it can't be regularly scheduled maintenance on the roads or anything like that, but if you have some specific project that you're undertaking in that district as part of this application.
but I thought it was if it was water main or sewer main replacement, something like that, which is,
Again, if it's not regularly scheduled, I think
Okay.
they would consider it, but the preference is for a cash.
okay.
There is 4,000 guests coming from other areas, so if 20,000 for the city is not possible, I think we were looking at 20,000 total would make us competitive. 24,000 would make us probably very strongly competitive.
Okay. Matt, your understanding of it?
My understanding of it is that it has to be a cash match.
Okay.
It has to be from the city, and it can't be from anybody else in the city? Some charitable group or something?
Well, we're getting donations from 3 banks, and we're getting a donation from the Rotary Club. as I
Towards the
understand it.
20,000?
That's on top of the 20,000. As I understand it, there was a local match resolution for $20,000.
We never agreed that it was gonna come out of our budget.
That's, I don't know what to say.
It was passed last month.
I'm pretty sure it was passed last.
Yeah. Well, if we have,
Last when? Meeting.
we can look in the minutes.
It was
from the
not
last-
determined how this $20,000 would come up, and at that point, I was still under this, it was a local match. I was still, when I voted yes, I was still under the assumption local match would come from the property owners. This is, 20,000, I mean, I'll
Well,
just say to the
the
council.
council's making the decision to move forward with the grant today. I mean, so
Right,
it-
exactly. That's why I want to give my timely input, if I may.
For sure.
Go ahead.
Is that appropriate, or we can wait?
I'm just looking to see if it was at our last meeting that it was approved. Go ahead.
My feeling about it, I think this is great. I mean, it's a good amount of money that we're getting from the state to fix up housing that really, really needs it. Thing is, there's a lot of housing that really, really needs it all through the city. And to use taxpayer money to fix up 8 houses just as a gift from the city, I don't know, it's something
A gift?
doesn't feel right about it. Well, in
Well,
other words,
you
our
divide-
I
contribution.
think the property owners need to come up with some funds. I feel like John.
But
I
they
really
can't-
do.
It has to be from the city. They
I
can't
actually
be from
agree with you, and I had thrown out the idea that the homeowners actually would
I
partner
think-
with the banks and borrow a portion of that so that they had some skin in the game. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, and if we're gonna get $300,000 potentially from the state, you're gonna make that back in property taxes in under 10 years, so is it a completely fair system? I don't think so, but it would be a shame for us to lose out on $300,000 to get some well-needed repairs done because of some of these concerns that Matt.
The unfortunate part of what you just described there is that the city is not in a financial position that we can put up $20,000 as a cash match in this situation. And we have no way of really being able to pull these funds from anything at this point in order to do this. Now, in the minutes from the previous meeting, we set the public hearing date for this day. But I don't see much beyond that in our minutes from our last meeting. So, that's posted here.
Tonight is the time
Was it last
to
time?
decide if we're going to actually put in
Was it a month ago?
$20,000.
No, we just set the public hearing.
Yeah. We didn't do a
Well, I would say we need to check that, because if there was a resolution, then we are committed to a certain point. If you want to take a
Well-
step backwards and decide not to go forward with the application, that would be your next step. But I think we did approve that.
Whatever we approved, that was not my understanding from whatever I voted in the past.
I don't think
Again,
it was,
it's, you know,
I don't
we're-
think it was as clear to the council when we did do it that the cash was a requirement.
Requirement.
That
It was not at all
required to
clear.
be a cash.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I find that a really hard pill to swallow.
Well, we can certainly still continue to turn in the application with a lower amount or just 4,000 match. Probably won't be successful, but we can move forward with it, is my understanding. Is
What's the deadline for the
that December
application?
8th, the application is due.
So
Right.
it's this week or in
So-
summer? Pretty much.
I mean, this is a wonderful, you know, charitable kind of,
Well, no, it's leverage, it's leveraging $316,000
I think
to
that.
upgrade your housing stock. It's not charity, it's leverage to create to create higher value, property value within your city. So
Well, I mean, I'd like to
you're using
see
about
it-
$2,400 per home, if there are
well, 24,000 per home or something.
No,
30-some
2,400,
thousand.
your contribution, the city's contribution
yeah.
towards that.
Well, I guess from my point of view here, I'd like to see something more, either in minutes or in some form of documentation that the council approved that $20,000 rather than just setting a public hearing for the 24th at 7 PM to discuss this. And
So whatever we approved in the past, I don't think any of us had the notion that we were actually going to contribute from our general fund towards this grant. And so the real point is, do we go ahead with the application as it's written now?
Well, I don't think you can have an application that doesn't have a city's participation, correct? Doesn't have a cash.
They're,
In other words, there are points for each aspect of the application. Is there a separate line for the
they aren't
city
going to fund an
contribution?
application without city
Right.
commitment financially. You know, this is, I guess I want to clear the air on exactly what the intent of the grant is. This is not considered to be a charitable grant. There is there's an application process. Once a target area is established, you seek out applications from all of the homeowners within the targeted area. And you're specifically targeting low to moderate income individuals. You're targeting households that cannot afford rehabilitation and improvements of their housing. And the intent of the program is to really make improvements identified by HUD before these houses fall into disrepair. And that's a citywide interest. It's not just the property owners. And, there are houses that can become too far gone. There are personal objections that myself and really any rational person should have against, chipping in for somebody's own private responsibilities. But the fact is that a lot of these improvements just wouldn't happen without this program.
Does the application process come up just once a year?
Yes. And you can put it off if you want to. I mean, Adam and his staff have been working very hard to carry out the income surveys for the targeted area, and that is what qualifies the city for these funds. The survey is good for 3 years. I mean, if I guess that's all I'll say.
I think the survey is only good for a year. I think that's what I heard at the.
3 years.
We started talking about it in September, and Adam told the city council that we'd be eligible for a CDBG housing grant if they're interested. It would be for low-income housing with a 5-year forgivable loan. And then there's nothing else after
There's no
that.
resolution.
No.
see,
We
that's-
checked our agenda.
that's-
Have we checked our agendas?
I checked the agendas.
Okay.
It's actually the item that you're on right now.
Yeah.
We waited until after the public hearing and an opportunity for Matt to speak before you actually passed what your contribution was. So that's why it was not on last month's meetings.
We
and that
haven't
will-
passed, in other words, we're about to pass it.
Right.
You were being requested to pass it tonight. And so, I mean, you know, this argument that Adam used, that, well, maybe we'll make it back into taxes. I would like to really get a little more reality check on that. You know, maybe if we could take a couple examples and look through what are these people doing, and then hear from the assessor what, you know, in fact, would that really be noticed or assessed? You know, in other words, if we're giving each household of those 8 households $2,500, is their taxes going to go up $250? Maybe, and maybe not. We don't. You know, in other words, from that side, as a corporate investor in the city, you know, tax base.
John, at
But-
the same time, we offer abatements for improvements to houses, which is giving,
Sure we do.
giving money to homeowners.
But that's why I'd like. But then we know.
We don't know. We always assume that the improvements will add to the tax base, but we don't crunch the numbers, and we don't require some sort of formula proving that abatement is going to necessarily be paid back in some time frame. We trust that it will. But it's the same system. It's not, I don't think that it could be considered a giveaway.
Well, it's a
It is
little
an
different.
investment.
We're putting the money up front here with tax abatement. We're just not getting the money back
Right.
5 years from now.
Exactly.
It's a
I'd be happy to give them a
big
tax
difference.
abatement.
It's the difference in the way that the funds are given, but it is not fundamentally philosophically different to abate, which is basically giving somebody a break on their property taxes. It's giving them money that we would normally collect to make an improvement. It's just, instead of, this way we are putting money forward first, and then it gets paid back, and understand the difference with the abatement is we're not collecting on something right away, but it's the same basic
Michael makes a good
principle.
point. I mean, it does have a factor in the revenue that you receive, the amount. You receive less revenue because you're basically taxing less. So there is a cost to that too. And I also take the point that, you know, you're literally taking funds out of our general fund account and applying them towards something like this.
Could
You know,
some-
generally, these programs are investment programs in your community, and they are opportunities to leverage other dollars that can uplift the community in a way.
So
We appreciate the value of it, and I appreciate the council's concern about, you know, where the money would actually come from. We're not into our budgeting process. We don't know what our general fund balances are going to be, say, in 60 days. When would funds be, when would we need them?
Funds would be needed when it's expended.
Okay, so it would be sometime in the late spring or early summer yeah?
Not even that soon. Most likely, awards would come probably in April, and then there's planning, there's inspections, writing up specs, and a lot of the improvements probably wouldn't be coming until late summer, fall,
So it
the
could even
following
be next
spring,
year's budget.
2015, 2016.
Could you give an example of a couple of different types of projects that would happen based on the applications?
Yeah, you know, roofing, heating, foundation, absolutely.
Windows.
This is not meant for expansion or, you know,
if I put a new roof on my house, it's not going to change my property values.
That's the point.
I'm not going to get any tax money back on that.
A new foundation or a new heater, I mean, I think.
yeah, I can't speak for how the city's tax structure is designed, but I don't know if
It's
these.
the assessor's office. They're not going to, for repair work, they're not going to.
I don't think these improvements are necessarily designed to
You do.
expand the tax base. I don't think that that's necessarily the intent of the program. More or less, the houses, preventing them from falling into disrepair.
Again, I feel like it's such a
they're-
great opportunity, but is it really fair? I mean, how many hundreds of households in our city could really use the kind of work that, a new roof, a new, whatever.
I totally agree.
And everyone's paying top property taxes, and now, okay, well, we're gonna pool up and give each of these 8 people $2,500 for theirs. It's just something about it that just doesn't click to me.
There's a rationale for selecting the targeted area. This is an area of the town that was identified in the housing needs assessment as being in poorer condition. So we're specifically targeting an area of town that is already facing houses in disrepair and needing rehabilitation.
Okay.
So I guess that's really the justification behind the targeted area, and the program is designed where you can only do so many, so you can only improve 8 houses with these funds that are proposed. So,
John, you had a point?
Yeah, we've done this before.
Go ahead. And I think council understands we've done it before.
Yeah.
I don't know that they know what the value of what we
The agreements that
did.
get signed with the homeowners, after everything goes through the process of getting the money, require the homeowners, if they have a gain on the sale of the property during that first 5 years, to apportion whatever benefit they have out of it back. So if we're in the 3rd year, we're gonna get what, 40 or 60% back of what they had paid if they sell their property for a gain? I believe that's part of the agreement. And when we get past the 5 years, we release the equivalent of a security agreement on the property. We just did that.
With the
last
properties in
couple of weeks.
the southwest part of the
Properties here.
town, yeah.
And it works fairly effectively as far as people not spending their time speculating on this kind of stuff. It truly is a neighborhood thing. People tend to stay there because of the five-year apportionment.
So John, I wasn't
back.
as alert on this point back when we did on the southwest side of town. The city put in actual cash contribution?
We did.
We did at that time, but we had the money from local option sales tax in order to do it at that particular point in time. It happened down in the neighborhood that's relatively close to the one that I live in down there. And a lot of those homes now have gone off, like John had said. They're beyond the 5-year time period. Some of them are now up for sale. But that's a process that they had to go through to be the owner occupant of it until that time period was up before they could either sell or continue to live there. But again, that money came from local option sales tax, if I'm remembering properly.
It did.
And we don't have those kind of funds available to us at this point in time.
So do we have $20,000 in the general fund to spend on this? That's the question. I mean, otherwise we're talking about nothing.
Well, I think, it's not again, as it
promising
was just
something
described,
for
you may be
sales
spending
requirements.
it, in 15, 16, not in 13, 14. And it would be something that you would have to budget in when you do your budget. So yes, if you're making a commitment to it, then you would budget for it when we do the overall budget. It would be a piece that you would either decide to
Set aside.
You would set aside for that. So let me just, Adam, let me just ask you to give one pitch here on the big picture of how this fits into, a process that I know you're very, very involved with, and I know our Economic Development Committee is involved with, as far as the overall housing study and how we're attacking that, how we're applying it, this being a piece of that.
So I think hopefully a couple years down the road, we won't run into this issue. Part of the policy that Jessica will be talking about a little bit that's being potentially proposed for new housing development would set aside funding from the increment generated off that market rate housing to pay for programs and grants like this.
Perfect.
Unfortunately, we don't have that in place right now, but 4 years from now, maybe we'll be targeting the northeast part of town. And then we'll have a local match already set aside through this TIF policy dedicated to LMI programs. So again, I guess big picture, the northwest part of town, looking back at that map from what Area 15 put together for us in February, something probably around 40 to 50% of those homes are in a poor or a dilapidated state. And you're going to cross a threshold at some place where what happens to that part of town? Nobody's going to reinvest in it. And we've got somebody looking at doing a housing development in that area of the woods. We've got an old trailer park there that sounds like there's potential for redevelopment as well. We're looking right here, we're against the Broadway building. We're looking at trying to make a change in this neighborhood that's meaningful and actually could encourage further development down the road. Now, when you actually start talking about the structure of the grant, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's probably a little bit poorly designed program, but it's out there, and other communities are out there utilizing it. And it makes sense for me to try to grab the $300,000 federally and get it in our community, because it's a good investment in our housing stock, which we've all been talking about. There's a lot of issues that people shouldn't be living in some of those houses. I've gone door to door 3 times on all these houses and knocked on them, peeked through the windows to see if they're vacant. 8 of these homes in the area are vacant, just of the 80-some homes out there. A lot of them probably shouldn't have people in them that do have people in them. So, yeah, there's a windfall for some people, but I think it is probably a good decision if there is funding available for the city budget.
Thanks, Adam. All right, so now we have clarified that there's not been any official resolution on this, so you'll be considering this tonight. The next action would be to approve a technical services agreement with Area 15 to manage this process. So let's take...
Your Honor, I'm still not through with
the presentation? Go
the
ahead.
hearing, yeah.
Okay.
And as I understand it, Melanie had a resolution, a local match resolution in your council packet.
Mhm.
So she had confirmed that it had not been passed.
Right.
It's presented to you today. So I guess I'll just finish my spiel and we can take it from there. And I guess I'll just take over where I left off with the source of funds for the project and the cost. What is proposed is a $340,000 project, $316 in grant funds, $24,000 in local funds, $20,000 from the city, $4,000 from local partners. The grant application is December 8th. Eligibility is based on a targeted area survey in which survey respondents met the income requirements of the grant program. What is proposed is to rehab 8 owner-occupied housing units within the target area. Will include substantial rehab, roof, plumbing, heating, electrical, energy-efficient windows, doors, etc. Rehab will not include additions to housing units or upgrades. It being HUD funds, they certainly don't want any kind of displacement of persons or businesses. So no persons or businesses will be displaced, and in the event that we need to temporarily relocate somebody due to lead hazards, potential asbestos hazards, their temporary relocation expenses will be paid, and that's budgeted within the budget of the grant. And I had worked with city staff to come up with what is termed a community development housing needs assessment, and I can go through that in detail if requested.
You can pick some high points on it, sure, if it's something that we haven't covered.
More or less, we identify, we go through 3 categories. We identify major housing and community development needs for local LMI persons. So we identify major capital improvements that are planned for the short and long term with the community. Other community development and housing needs. A lot of these are pretty generic, pretty broad. And then the third category is planned or potential activities to address housing and community needs. So primarily we identify sewer improvements, water improvements, upgrading existing housing stock, downtown revitalization, wastewater, street infrastructure, and we're getting into some detail as far as exactly what types of projects are proposed for the city. Updating of building and zoning codes, to ensure adequate property maintenance code, stormwater issues, adopt a TIF policy, implement a new comprehensive plan for the city. Construct an outdoor pool, indoor gymnasium.
I'm sorry, what are these points regarding?
This is what is termed a community development housing needs assessment.
And all those were goals of that needs assessment, is that right?
Yes,
Or like needs or identified by that assessment?
I worked with city staff to identify the housing needs,
Okay.
community and housing needs within the city.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Anything else? Any other information to add?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, council, what's your wish?
I have a question before we discuss it further. How much do we already have into this? I know that, people don't work for free. I mean, we've
No,
had.
we don't have anything into this at this point.
No,
but
FEMA's
a lot of,
paid for the stamps and the man hours.
right.
So I guess.
It's been, it's,
And Matt as well?
The city is a member of Area 15 Regional Planning.
So
You
you've
pay us
done this.
annual membership dues, and within those dues is application assistance. So we write your application. That's what we're here for. We're extended staff of the city.
I wish we had like another council meeting to consider this and get some feedback and kind of process it. The application is on the 8th, and this is the last council meeting before then. I really wish I had time to like sleep on this and hear from people and have people
Can we have
talk
a
me out of my
special
hard
council
stance.
meeting for it?
I don't, what is your application date?
The 8th.
The
8th?
December.
8th of December.
Well, we could if you would like.
I mean, how's the rest of the council feel?
Something.
Talk me into it if someone.
I mean,
I would
it's,
feel comfortable if I knew we had the money now to fund the grant instead of spending money that we don't have yet next year on this grant.
I wouldn't recommend having the money now, but if we don't need the money until the next budget, you can use local option sales tax money in the next budget year.
That's what we did before.
And that's what we did before, but you'll have to remember, you won't have
Well, it has to
a
be
lot
earmarked.
left over for the rest of the organizations, but
Unless
you
we,
but-
unless we have our election in the fall and try
Right.
to
Well, but we
reassign some of
probably
the
won't
money.
get it in time, but, I mean, you could still do that. You can budget for the local option sales tax to go toward that.
Well, if you drive through that part of town, you'll see a very high need for a lot more than 8 homes to be fixed up and redone. The allocation's like, what, 40,000 per house, 30,000? What's the goal?
25,000 federal money per house.
That's 25,000 in what's termed hard costs. Once you exceed $24,999 per house in what they term hard costs, you have to abate asbestos. A weird thing with this program is you essentially treat everything that you tear down or take out as containing lead, so you have to dispose it as a hazardous material. And that actually runs up quite a bit of costs, actually. So while we do have budgeted around $25,000 worth of costs, it usually ends up averaging out to $38,000-$39,000 per house.
And we know we need it. We have a housing shortage. We have a housing problem. We need to fix up the housing that we have. If we can make use of 300,000+ of federal grants to help do that, and we can use lost funds for our match, it seems to me we should do that.
How much lost funds are we anticipating next year?
Oh, probably about the same. I mean, I usually
Where
budget
do
the
we-
same.
775,000, 800,000, of which about 100,000 would be available for
Right.
something like this.
Right.
And other community organizations.
Right.
that
Yeah,
might
funding
drive
artwork.
Right.
Right.
Like Art Walk or Fairfield
Right.
or
Right,
Pathfinders or
Right.
Fire Department.
yep,
We gotta think about that too.
Right.
Starting housing, we're not gonna spend on those kinds of organizations.
exactly.
Is
Yes.
that 20,000 set in stone that we need that portion to come from the city for this application? What if we did 10?
Maybe 16.
I more or less, the 20,000 was set based on what they were funding last year. The 20,000 was a recommendation as far as what to set it at this year. At 16,000, you would be designating 2,000 per house. And from what I was seeing with applications that they were funding last year, they weren't really funding any below that. And we do have the local partners also contributing. I think that that definitely helps our case as well. I think you can still get away with 2,000 and they can potentially fund it. It's an incredibly competitive program. They probably fund less than half of the applicants just because you're leveraging so much money. You know, there's really a lot of cities in the state that really pursue the funds. So you know, obviously the more you match, the better your odds are of getting funded. I think if you contribute any less than 16,000, your chances of getting funded are probably pretty slim.
Okay, well, it's good to know that there's some flexibility there.
So you would recommend 28,000 as the minimum, and then the 4,000 from the private donors would just be a bump?
No,
Make it
he's saying that 16 is maybe
I
a
would
minimum.
recommend 16 as your minimum. 20,000 is what I'm recommending.
Yeah, you recommend
Right.
20,000 for a competitive grant.
If you do 16, I would have to, I guess, restate what funds are proposed, because that would throw the total in for the for the formalities of my hearing, I guess.
But
I
you
would
think
have
in
to-
order to get this, we need to put at least 20 in, and plus the 4 from the private donors, the banks, and the Rotary Club.
Including that 20, yeah.
That'd be 24 total.
That's my recommendation.
You think below that, we probably wouldn't?
But it's not my decision.
Well, no, but I'm just trying to get the odds here. Below 20, you're thinking we probably wouldn't get funded. Odds are.
I guess I want to be clear on when you say 20, whether you mean the
city's
16
20.
plus the 4.
No. the city's-
24,000
City's 20 plus
completed.
24 total.
The city's 20 is what I'm recommending.
Yeah, but
16 from the
no,
city.
you've been very clear that 16 from the city would be a minimum. So
Right.
your decision as a council is to go with his recommended amount of 20 or 16 as a minimum. So,
Correct.
yeah. So I'd entertain a motion either way. And a recommended amount in the motion.
I recommend that I make a motion that we support this and recommend 20,000 from lost funds for next year.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Ledger Kalen, seconded by Hamas. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll. And again, this is to the resolution authorizing the submission of the grant approving that amount of money. So please call the roll.
Ledger Kalen.
Yes.
Hamas.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Revelinsky.
Well, I'll say yes to it. It's
All right.
Merry
It was
Christmas.
unanimous.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Gentlemen, thank you for the explanation of the value of it, and glad we're getting our application in. Next item of business then would be to award the CDBG technical services provider.
It just kills me.
That was for the application, right?
Right.
This,
Just my trip.
this next is essentially formalizing the grant administrator portion.
No, this is separate than grant administration. This is
Technical services.
Don't, you're technically procuring us. I don't know if I
I'll
should
do
be the one.
it. I'll do it. So Area 15 wears two hats on this project. There's the grant administration, which that's what I was getting confused. You approved a couple
Yes, we
months, or a
did.
couple meetings ago. On this, because I'm an engineer, I think about it this way. They're basically the engineers for the project. They coordinate the technical side of things. So the city sent out procurement letters for requests for proposals from 3 companies. Area 15 was the only one to respond, so we would recommend that you, I guess, request an agreement from them. You're not actually entering into a contract, you're just selecting them, and that will bring a contract to you at another time for the technical side of this application, or
Okay.
of this work.
And the likely funding for that will come out of the grant?
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
And you actually won't go and get it, enter into an agreement with them until the grant is awarded. So that won't be back to you until next year.
Okay. So I'd recommend that, I'd entertain a motion then to accept Area 15 as your technical services provider for the CDBG grant.
So moved.
Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Hamilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Then I think that takes care of all our business on the CDBG grant. We'll move to the second reading of our wastewater treatment user charge increase. This is a public hearing. We'll declare the public hearing open at this time and ask if there's any public comment. Okay. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion to approve the second reading.
I would like to move from the first to the second reading, or
Second to the third?
from the second to the third reading of this ordinance.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's no problem. Moved by Hamilton?
Second.
Second by Ledger Kalen. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Okay, Melanie, if you come back again, we're going to look at awarding contract for the basketball court project. You can give us an update on that as well.
Okay, I believe that some of these projects happen so fast, I'm not sure at what point the council got involved, but I believe you were aware that there were private donations for an outdoor basketball court at O.B. Nelson Park. So we went to, because of the scope of the project, we went for quotes rather than a formal bidding process. And we bid out or asked for quotes for the concrete work and the earthwork. The fence, we got separate quotes on the fence as well as lights, and have awarded the lights to Musco and the fencing to DNN Fence. So the contract, the contract in front of you is for the earthwork and the concrete. I would guess none of this work is going to happen this year. It will be in the spring. But we received 2 bids. The low was from Wesley Barton of Mount Pleasant for $36,183.75. The second quote was from Turner Concrete of Ottumwa for $38,405. So we appreciate both of their quotes, their bids on this project, but I would recommend award to Wesley Barton.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. And just since we've been having in-depth discussions about funding for everything this evening, this is all of the funds that are required for this project are completely taken care of by the private donor and the Park and Rec Foundation.
Yes, we'll run the contracts through the city, and the foundation will reimburse the city for the projects.
Okay, thank you. And I entertain a motion to award the contract.
So moved.
Moved by Hallie,
Second.
second by Ledger Kalen. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Okay, next item is approval of an engineering services agreement with French Reniker for a traffic study on Highway 1. This, we discussed a little bit earlier, conversations that we've had with the DOT about the expansion of South Main or Highway 1 South from Fillmore to 227th Street into 3 lanes. Would require us to perform a traffic study to determine principally how we're going to deal with the intersection at Libertyville Road, whether that would be a roundabout or a traffic signal, and that'll be determined mostly by the study so that it can move into more formal phase. Now, this project is, I kind of held together with a lot of, at this point in time, common understanding and feeling that it's a direction both the DOT and the city would like to go. Our contribution to this would likely come out of our allocation of STP funds that we receive federally, along with money that we've already been awarded through the TAC committee for part of the trails. And then the remainder would likely come from the DOT. They've been very positive about the project. John Myers and I presented the project to the DOT commissioners. They were very positive about the project as well. But we believe this is all going to move forward. But one of the things that the DOT engineers need now from us are the results of this traffic study to determine how that intersection is to be taken care of. So we would likely be funding this out of our own capital projects budget to begin with, but it would be something that we could potentially be reimbursed as part of the project later on, and it might be much later on, because this is not going to be slated likely before 2017.
That sums up. I don't really have anything more to say. I was here just to answer questions rather than get my exercise today.
Okay.
I do think that this is the last thing that the DOT will request before they make a decision as to whether this project is a go or a no-go. They want to make sure that, Highway 1 is their road, and they want to make sure that the improvements on it meet their standards. So that's the reason for the additional study.
And I think they're well aware of the traffic challenges at that corner, and they want to be a part of helping to fix that. And then, Darren, what are the other funds what's the category of funding that DOT would put into the maintenance of that portion of the road?
3R money.
Okay.
It's classified as 3R, but
yes. So some of that
rehabilitation, reconstruction, and
some of that is part of the pool already as well. That has been part of what the pool of money.
So move to approve the engineering service agreement for Highway 1 traffic study.
Moved by Revelinsky.
Second?
Second by Hamas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Okay, now I see Beth Williams is here. Beth, you are a few minutes late. We've already passed you on the agenda. I'm going to give you a pass because it's so close to Thanksgiving, and ask you to come up and give a 3-minute report. Okay, thanks very much.
Very simple. We have a farmer's market that, y'all just pass it down, I didn't make it. We have a farmer's market here that,
Just hold off till you get to the podium, okay? And we'll all share this, okay?
I'm Beth Williams from out of Walton Lake. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, fine.
For the TV audience.
Our local farmer's market is a very good one. I think a lot of people are very proud of it. We have 0.610% of all the farmers market in the country sell as much as we do. The other 98.4 do not. We have certain vendors that I know sell, and that's over 150,000 a year. Our problem now is we have change in the families. You have people going back to work, full-time jobs, and can't come on Saturdays to farmers market. So we've lost one of our meat vendors, and we're getting ready to lose the other one. But both of them want to come to this co-op because they can handle that. They can do that. So we've got Francis Tickey's dairy products. We've got 2 large meat vendors from Bloomfield and up the road here from Salina. Probably have at this point a firm 30 vendors that are pretty much food related or value added. So I had the indoor farmers market 4 years ago down on Low Street in the old Ideal Concrete Building. And that space is now being used by Boom Fitness. But I kept the unit next door to it, which is a double-decker. I've got a deck built in there. It's about 750 square foot, dry. Very wonderful temperature. I'm about done with my 3 minutes. Anyhow, so we're going to be putting out the co-op produce out of that unit. I've already had it looked at by building, standards and appeals, and it's already certified organic. Then we're going around the other side of the building on 3rd and taking the kitchen that's being abandoned by Kombucha because of their great success. So we're going to have a value-added kitchen, and we're trying to put out by the middle of December. I'm beginning to think maybe the first week of January.
Beth, what's your location again?
Okay, we're at 210 West Low, Unit 2, and then on the far side of the building, it becomes a 415, I believe, North 3rd.
Okay.
But it's pretty exciting. I just want you to see what I was thinking. We're sort of here. This is southeast Iowa. That's 50 miles, and that's pretty much where we're pulling to for the farmers market now because they're limited in their surrounding counties. There's a lot of product that we don't have here that's within that 50-mile range that we just can't get at this point local. And I'm meeting people through the YFAN conference last weekend and other sources, people who have molasses and Chevron and, different products that we do want. So we would gradually reach out and bring that in, but at the same time trying to expand out and trying to get our food over to Burlington and get our food over to Ottumwa and down into Bloomfield and down in Missouri. So when you can see this, if we can get this thing living and breathing a little bit without too much trouble of transporting, and then people who have hundreds of acres coming out from subsidy, maybe they can figure out how to hire enough people to start making it. We're also doing an umbrella organic, which is pretty unusual these days. So we're going to try to get it so that all of our vendors are organic. And the co-op will try to be paying for that. Anybody that's already organic, we want to try to give them a little subsidy for going ahead and doing that because it's a huge selling point. And it guarantees them an income.
Great.
Otherwise, they're just stranded with a low income.
Great. Well, we really appreciate the report on the important economic activity here locally. Did you happen to see the article in the Des Moines Register today? That was the Leopold Center released an impact study on local foods production in Iowa. And it's a significant percentage, it's still in single digits, of the total agricultural production within the state. But it is growing.
It's moving up fast, and
And
the
the
state's
fact that they
pushing
can
it
measure
hard.
it.
The
So-
state is pushing it very hard.
Yeah.
We haven't gone for grants or anything yet, but we might go for a small self-loan.
Great. Well, we appreciate your efforts
It's a
locally.
lot of fun, and it's
Good.
kind of scary, but this thing is just so beautiful if we can just, and the farmers are friends of mine, the crafters, and I really want
Great.
them to be able to stay on their farms.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Beth.
Okay, next council will move to our committee and board reports. First will be Property Committee.
Yes, the property committee met last Friday. We had 3 items that were brought before us. No final decisions, I guess, were completed on any of them. We had a nuisance problem with some chickens that were up on East Low, and I think that Scott has assured me that it's going to be taken care of. Not because of the number of chickens, but because they did not stay in their own yard. So that was somewhat of a problem. But I think that we have that handled. We also had Christopher Sarflatten, who came and requested that we waive his need whereby he could have his rain garden and not mow. And the committee definitely decided that he is in the city limits, and we are asking that he abide by the mowing practice. And I know he was not very satisfied with the committee's decisions, so he indicated that he planned to come to the council and request that we can reconsider, but he is not here and has not requested. So at this point, he is obligated to maintain his yard and dispose of his limbs and timber that's in his yard. So I guess Scott and I have worked together, hopefully, to see that that happens. And then we did also have a request from an individual who would like to make a purchase of a small piece of property. And I think Melanie and John are working together to determine if this is a possibility. So I think at the present time, there really isn't any final thing. This is from Thomas Farrer, F-A-R-R-E-R. And so we are in the process of determining whether this is something that the city would want to do or not. It is city property at the present time, and it's a small piece. So I think Melanie and John are working on that. So
Okay.
I think that's what the property committee handled.
Thank you, Martha. Appreciate that. Next, Personnel Committee, Doug?
Yes, the Personnel Committee met on November 6th at 5 o'clock, and we were meeting to hear an appeal by an employee on their termination. Immediately went into closed session, heard from all the interested parties, probably talked for about an hour and a half or so, and came out of closed session and voted to follow the recommendation made in closed. Now, I was just going to ask you, the letter that you wrote, is that public?
Oh, sure. That's public record, yeah.
Okay. So we voted to uphold the termination that had been made.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Next, Economic Development Committee?
So we met and reviewed everyone has a paper copy. If Adam wants to come up, he can help go over this. He helped to write this, but basically what we did is we went over the housing TIF objectives and policy document, and we made only one change that John suggested, I think, which is in here. But I think that's all we did.
That change is just listed in the development agreement section, that if a developer were to propose a project that the city would pursue in terms of the housing TIF and implementing that within 5 years, I think was kind of the general consensus, if that increment had not materialized, the developer would be held responsible for the fees associated with implementing that TIF district. That's probably something best dealt with in an actual development agreement as opposed to part of the policy. If you need to address that and/or other issues at the time where you're ready to enter into that agreement, that would be something to probably identify there. Travis Squires also has reviewed this, and he's given me a few suggestions that are not included in this draft, but I will make some amendments. Nothing major, but a few small points that he felt would be good to address in there as well. So.
But as a group, both property and economic development, we went over this document, and we went through it pretty thoroughly. And like I said, we had that one comment, but otherwise everyone was in agreement. So the basic idea tonight is to give you guys this, have you look at it. I think Darren is probably the only one that hasn't looked at it. So, or Darren and maybe Doug.
It was sent to me by email.
Okay.
I read through it, so.
So we'll take action on at the next council meeting. We won't do anything with this tonight, but other than just if you had any questions or anything about it, go ahead.
I'm just curious, on the printout here, it has all the kind of comments and stuff on all the, I'm not sure. It was just points for discussion, in other words.
That was just what we had highlighted in the meeting. Those won't be on the final draft, obviously, but.
But just to remind everybody that these were things that we had actually looked at and reviewed. And
right.
I think, again, if this document becomes policy, I think what we'll want, John, is some information when we do consider it, what our legal boundaries are in supporting something like this, and then also from a debt management standpoint, we want to have some input also. I'll try and have Travis here for that.
Okay.
Because I think this would be a very, powerful piece of policy to promote for housing development within the city, which that would be sure we all understand what it is that the city is committing to.
Sure. So we'll make sure Travis
in our partnership,
is at the 15th meeting.
I mean, do we really need to have him here? I mean, because this whole thing is TIF reimbursement. It's not a matter of the city taking on more debt.
I think I did.
He'll be here for that meeting anyway.
He's coming
to
anyway?
do-
Oh,
For,
good.
for some bond.
Well, that'd be great. I mean, I'd love
work
to
that
hear
we're
from
doing,
him,
yeah.
but I hate to have him make a
And
special
John's already
trip for
weighed
that.
in on this as well. I mean, he's been part of the,
Yeah, Travis did review it, and I think he had some broader feedback as well that might be good to have a discourse with the council at that time, and how this could play into some other matters that the council might want to consider in tandem.
but as you guys read it over, if there's anything that you have questions on, feel free to direct it to me or Adam in the meantime, so.
Okay, thank you. And again, appreciate the work that's been going on this front. Next, public safety and transportation.
We met on the 17th, discussed several items, most of which were tabled or already been dealt with. One item we did take action on, we had a culvert request out on South 32nd Street that's been pending for several years now and drains about 27 acres of water to one location, that's Suburban Heights. And our committee recommended the culvert be replaced, which would be a county-city split, the city with the financial part of the materials, the county with the in-kind labor and machinery. Since there is quite a bit of money involved in that, we then passed on to Ways and Means to John for their committee to meet on for the next budget cycle to look over that. We discussed some other items we tabled. Daryl requested some signage not be replaced, or suggested not be replaced down at Everybody's where the parking lot work's been done. So we gave Daryl permission not to replace those signs where the sidewalks are now, or different reasons why they wouldn't go back in there properly. No parking signs down there in that area. And we had a private company want to put some crosswalks in at 9th and Depot, and I got to meet with John after the meeting on that. That was about it.
Okay. Thank you, Tony, appreciate it. Quiet zone and railroads safety, is that?
Yep, that's me.
Okay.
Who else would it be?
Well, I didn't know whether it was part of the public safety report or whether it was a
It's a
separate.
special, separate thing.
Okay.
All right, last Thursday, November 20th, was our 2-year anniversary of having established our railroad quiet zone here in the city of Fairfield. And the same day, a gentleman wrote a letter to the editor wanting to bring the horns back because we had a close call with the gate arm. So I did a little research and some points of reminder about railroad safety. Just to review, the way that the quiet zone was established was that we made our crossings in town as a whole safer than they were with the train horns. In fact, according to the FRA's statistics, we made them twice as safe. And the way we did that was we put medians in the road that prevent people from doing an illegal thing and a very dangerous thing, and that is going around a gate arm when it's closed. Daryl Bisgard lives on D Street. He's seen quite a few people who had done that in the past. It's actually a function of the train horn that is, in a sense, a negative for public safety, that people believe that they can dictate or assess the distance the train is from the crossing by its horn. In fact, you cannot. You can't even necessarily assess it by watching it. It's, the speeds vary, train to train. So by putting in those medians, we prevented people from making a very bad decision. Still, there's some points to consider. You still need to treat the tracks and the trains with respect. So I did some research, and a couple points are, remember that any time is train time. So basically, when you come upon the tracks, don't assume that everything is functioning properly. It goes into the next one. Slow down when approaching a railroad crossing, and look both ways twice. Cheesy.
Go ahead. We're all listening.
This is important stuff. So, in our town, anytime you approach the tracks, you have a straight line of sight in both directions. So you will definitely, if you have the this visual ability to drive a car, then you would have a visual ability to look down the tracks and see if a train was approaching. Now, the way the gate arms work is there's a system called constant warning time. Depending on the distance the train is from the crossing and its speed, the you gonna film that?
It's not
Oh, yeah.
No, there's nothing going on over there.
Nothing happening. No lighters. He doesn't have a leaf with him anyway. So anyway, you can trust the gate arm to come down at the appropriate time, but it's important to look both ways. And now I'm going to have our police chief talk briefly about the importance of
fire chief.
He doesn't have a microphone.
about the importance of not trespassing on the railroad tracks. So Chief, take it away.
All kidding aside, Chief, we had the Burlington Northern Law Enforcement and their management actually, and the federal government, the FBI, is very concerned after 9/11. They want us to strictly enforce trespassing. We get a lot of complaints. They're willing to file trespass charges for anybody crossing other than at the appropriate cross. We've also definitely seen a decrease in violations, close calls on the railroad tracks because of the medians. We had difficulty enforcing it. As you can imagine, if an officer was on one side of the train, saw a vehicle go around, they would have to call. Hopefully the other officer would be on the other side of the train. For obvious reasons, we haven't had to enforce it since then because there's absolutely no way to go around the gates now. So it has made it a lot safer. So we have identified no problems, and it has made it a lot safer in Fairfield.
Great,
Thanks,
thanks,
Chief.
Chief.
Might be worth remembering that there was a tragic accident in Batavia not too long ago involving
Going around.
going around these gates.
Yeah. Yep. It is the number one cause of an accident.
If I may, I just comment, a related comment. My first reaction when I read that was, well, why, if somebody's coming into town, why wouldn't they go on Highway 1 under the underpass? And then when I thought about it, you know, we just paid a lot of money to fix up 4th Street not that long ago. And I was just on 4th Street, and it's all ripped up again. And, you know, I wonder if there's something we can do from our side to encourage heavy traffic to take the state highway instead of our local street, which is a much more complicated crossing there, and which constantly, is, it's been repaired 10 times in the last so many years, and it's always, hard to keep level and all that. The 4th Street's really complicated. So I just want to put that out to the council. I don't know if there's...
We do have signage up there that says this is not a truck-through route.
Right. Is there anything else we can do?
Not to my knowledge. I don't see
They can
that we
still
can.
choose to do it if they want to.
Yeah.
Really.
Or like, put a weight limit there or something, or...
No, that's the most popular at-grade crossing in town, and it's convenient for people. I am working with BNSF currently to try to get an estimate for smoothing that over, taking out some of those extra spur lines. But until I have that, I'll just finish on the railroad safety. The analogy they used is that a fully loaded train to a car is what a car is to an empty pop can. So if you get hit by that train, it's real bad news. They can't swerve, they can't stop quickly. So just another reminder, be safe on the tracks. Approach them with caution, look both ways twice, and get over quickly. And don't play around and don't mess around.
And remember, any time is train time. So on that note, thanks for the report, Michael. It is a good reminder on our 2nd anniversary. We appreciate that.
Wow.
Okay, next we'll ask for our project update from our city administrator.
Your Honor, I would like to request that I no longer go after Michael at the council meetings.
You just have to have
It's hard to follow that act.
You just have to have a cheesy phrase
Oh,
to kind of
I'm
compete.
sorry, I
It
don't
was
have it.
I didn't make that up.
Well, it's been months, so I've attached a project update of the goings on within the city. With the cold weather, the unseasonably cold weather, early start to the cold weather, you'll see that there are several construction projects that did not get finished before the end of the year. So I guess everyone bear with us for over the winter. We do what the contractors do what they can. However, I do have a bit of good news from the pool site. We had a progress meeting on Friday, and the little bit of warm weather that we had on Friday allowed the pool to pour a significant amount of concrete that day, which has put them on schedule through February. It will allow them to do forming and building construction and mechanical construction over the winter. If they do have another warm day between now and February, they can pour some more concrete and keep us headed towards that June 1st opening date. So that was very good news, and we can all allow the snow to come now that we got a little bit more poured at the pool. The only other thing I wanted to mention, unless you guys have questions about any of the projects, was on the skate park that signs have been ordered or in the process of being ordered for some regulations at the skate park, and that does include no bicycles, period, on the skate park. So it does encourage things such, what?
It's been changed.
Um,
Because news reports earlier said certain kinds of bikes would not be allowed.
the signs that are being ordered say no bikes. So, it also includes just some safety information that helmets and appropriate gear are recommended, skateboarding's an extreme sport, the concrete's wet, or dangerous when wet, some general other information as well as some emergency numbers if needed, so. Unless there's any questions? Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks, Melanie. Okay, council, I guess before we go into closed session, this being Thanksgiving week, we just wanted to wish everyone in the city a happy Thanksgiving from all of us, and we hope that everyone is safe and their families all get here safely and have a wonderful holiday. This is a great year for us to be thankful, especially being the 175th anniversary of the founding of Fairfield, Iowa. So we wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. We will continue our meeting in closed session. I'll need a motion to go into closed session. Again, this would be according to Iowa Code 21.5J for the discussion of real estate. Moved by Hamilton, second by Revelinsky. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign.